talking earlier about 17-year-olds today and how different a life and the world they have than the 17-year-old Brian Darcy that entered here.
Yes.
You know, back when you entered. Do you think that the experiences you had at that very early age were very abnormal, or do you just see them as, well, they were my experiences and they're common to me?
When you put it like that, I can see how I know with a bit of sense to say that there were normal experiences, but to me, there were normal experiences. I'd already been abused as a little boy in Oma, so life had been a bit dragging at me for a long time, I was a reasonably good footballer. I was fond of music, fond of dances, so I had a balance in that, but it wasn't all misery. Do you understand what I mean? So you overcame misery by suppressing it.
Right.
Which of course is the best you can do at that stage, but isn't the best you can do at some other stage that comes back to haunt you. And I was lucky enough in my own life to read around and do psychology at university and so forth, and know that I needed more than that. I'd say writing for the Sunday World was the first big thing that made me think, because I had a fierce responsibility then. I started writing in 1975 for the Sunday World. And I suddenly realized then that I couldn't be transmitting viruses. I had to learn. I had to learn psychology and compassion and passive approach and a different approach, and I had to learn about people and understanding, and that combined with going to dance halls every single night of my life as a chaplain, as a young priest. All of those made me very aware. I was in the middle of the world. I was never away out of the world. Yeah. My colleagues were asleep in bed usually when I was dandering around the streets of Dublin at night. And that's a great gift. I mean, I think that's a great gift. I could have been a very staid, solemn old monk too. Yeah. You know, I could have done that. But God was good to me and prevented me, and He made me, mix with the normal world, which is a painful place to be, but God, that's wonderful pain. You know, a man came here to me one day, and I always remember it as a wonderful thing. I was hearing confessions here in the Grand one day, and here in the Grand we don't just hear confessions in boxes, you don't slide, etc. People come in and sit down and chat like we are now. And we have confessions every day, and people come for chats every day, as I will be doing later this evening when I'm finished here. And he came in, and you don't know what's going to come in. You know, it could have been anything. So he was a farmery sort of man, and he sat down. He didn't go behind the screen. He sat down in front of me, and we had a chat. And I said, like the way you greeted me, I said, well, "How are you doing today?" And he said, Fermanagh have a great way of saying this. They'll never give you any information, but you have to read it. They'll say, "I'm rightly."
Okay.
Now, meaning, I'm not the best.
Right.
You know, so I read that and said, "You're not the best." And what happened? Well, he said, "I'm coming from the doctors there, and the tests have come back, and 6 weeks to live," he tells me. Oh, gosh, I said, that's a big thing to get. Good heavens, must be, are you feeling shocked? Or, nah, well, kind of half expecting it. And just I was dragging and just talking about, I was not saying anything to him, just saying, and how is it? I mean, it must be very lonely for you just facing that this evening. Sit there as long as you want. What do you feel about dying? Or have you ever thought of it before, that you might die? Do you think it as a sentence, or do you think you have things to do to live? You know, just to try to give it a thing. So he said, well, the only thing, and he stopped, and then he said, well, he wouldn't look at me, he looked like that. And then he looked at me, and he says, well, tell you the truth, Father Brian, I'd like to die quick, but not soon. The wisest thing I've ever heard from a man. Yeah. Real stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
facing it.
Facing it. I'd like to die quick,
but not soon.
But not soon.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was so innocent, I didn't know what was happening. If a brother put you on his knee, so you were delighted as a young fellow away from home. I became his lunchtime recreation.